Happy Pride Month. This is Matt Heading-Hess, and I am the president of the Kankakee Area LGBTQ Network, and I am coming to you as a guest host of the Kankakee Podcast today. And I am very excited to have a guest with us in the studio today, one of our favorite drag queens from our Pride events, Miss Champagne X Sparkles, in the building.
Hi, everybody. How's everybody doing today? I'm so excited to be here, honestly. It's such an honor.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for being here. This is exciting. Probably the first drag queen they've ever had in this office, don't you think?
Making new strides in this community, I swear.
Every day. Awesome. Well, Champagne, I am excited to have you here. I wanted to take the opportunity to obviously celebrate Pride Month and talk about drag as such an important cultural piece of the LGBTQ community.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so I guess to start off, I wanted to kind of pose the question to you, what is drag to you?
Drag to me, honestly, is like the freedom of expression of gender and like, honestly, just art in a general sense. Like it doesn't have to be male. It doesn't have to be female. It could be anything you want it to be. It's just like going out and just having fun being yourself, honestly. That's what drag is to me.
Yeah, I love that. It's a performance, right?
Absolutely.
It's fun. It's experimenting.
Experimenting, yes, for sure.
Did a little research and I found that the history of drag seems to date back to ancient Greek and Shakespearean theater. In modern times, it's synonymous with gay culture. So the first drag queen in this modern context of queer modern context was in the 1850s. The first queen of drag was called William Dorsey Swan, and she actually had the first drag house or drag family. So
wow,
I thought that was
insane.
Interesting.
It's like Bridgerton looking ass drag.
Right? Yeah, it's been around forever. So I just wanted to kind of break down some of those terms. Can you explain to us what a drag house or a drag family is?
From my understanding, a drag house or a drag family is like a group of people in the community that just kind of like find each other in life, and maybe they have like similar aesthetics, similar goals in life. You know, I mean, me, myself, I have two wonderful drag mothers. Champagne Sparkles would not exist if it wasn't for them. They found me in a time where I definitely needed somebody, and it's like a chosen family, if you will. I'm sure you understand chosen family opposed to like biological.
Yeah. Yeah. Chosen family, for those that may be listening and may not know, chosen family refers to people that we select to be in our life, especially because a lot of people in the LGBT community are maybe shunned or removed from their family when they come out. So chosen family is a really important piece of our culture.
No, absolutely.
Yeah. And so among the drag community, it sounds like chosen family or drag families are drag queens who maybe perform together. Or
no,
kind
absolutely. It's definitely a sisterhood.
Yeah, I love
definitely
that.
A sisterhood.
I love that. So tell us, what first got you into drag? When did you start?
So it's so funny. Obviously, I personally did not start performing drag unless it was from you. You had, the Pride Picnic was just kind of starting up, and I was asked to do it, and thank God she's discovered contour and highlight later on in life because, but I started doing drag or just makeup, and you said what inspired me too?
Yeah, what got you started? Where
I'm such an airhead. My mom, honestly. My mom, there's these pictures of my mom from the 80s where she has like this permed hair and like this indigo like outfit. I'm just like, yes. And she's got like pink lipstick and blue eyeshadow. And like for me, that was just like pinnacle beauty. So I would say my mom inspired me to start doing drag.
Yeah, awesome. So you said it sounds like you maybe started kind of experimenting with makeup then at some point. Around what age did you start kind of exploring that for yourself?
So for me, it was definitely in high school. I was probably like 15, I would say, when I started experimenting. Back then, the trends were a lot of bronzer and, thick eyebrows. So I definitely have gotten better over the years, but there were definitely some times when I walked in looking sweaty and I wasn't even sweating.
Where did you grow up? You're from Kankakee County?
No, actually, I was born in Chicago Heights.
Okay.
So I have a lot of like that background of just like that type of culture out there. It's very different than out here. Obviously, you're more, I would say, suburban out that way. But I actually moved out here late elementary school.
Okay.
So I guess majority of my childhood is out here, but those key core memories are back in the Heights.
Okay. So where did you grow up then? post-elementary school?
Post elementary school, so like after schooling, or
No, like where'd you go to high school?
oh, I mean I went to late elementary, middle school, and high school in Mantino. I actually lived right over by the elementary school. So
Awesome. Okay, cool. All right. Very nice. So you talked a little bit about your character and how you've kind of improved in your skills, but what inspires your drag character? Is that
honestly, the 80s, everything about the 80s, whether it be drag queens themselves or just artists. Like Billy Idol's a huge one for me, just with style. Boy George, I'm sure everybody knows who Boy George is.
totally.
Divine, even though it's, I guess, more of a 70s reference, but just like over glam craziness, feathers, rhinestones, and beads. Like, if I can put it on my body, I'm gonna put it on my body.
Love that. Yeah, I get a lot of what I tend to think about drag is it's a little bit over the top, right? It's a little extra and a
Keep
little
them wanting more.
Yeah. Love that.
I think it's Dior says take one item off. I'm like, put 100 more on.
Yes. So you talked a little bit about this, but how has your drag persona evolved? Has that kind of always been the case that you've been into 80s vibes?
No, definitely not. My roots of drag were definitely more, I don't want to use the term like modern drag, but definitely that kind of like leotard, Ariana Grande type newer age music. But then I started to think, what are things that bring joy to me? I love the 80s music, the fashion, the colors. So I started to dabble in that. And then 7 names later, we came with Champagne Sparkles. And then I don't know if you know this, but now I'm actually, I've changed my name to Champagne Electric to go with my current sponsor, which I'm sure we'll get into at some point. But
absolutely. Yeah, we will get into that. That's kind of what you referenced earlier, is that drag's all about kind of evolving and playing and experimenting. And
absolutely.
And you kind of grow and things with your drag too. I love that. So what's your take on, drag's kind of come into the mainstream the past decade or so. I don't even know how long it's been on, but RuPaul's Drag Race, and it's kind of come into the mainstream. We see more and more of it. What's your take on RuPaul's Drag Race? Is that something you think is a good representation of the drag community? A negative representation? What do you think?
I think it's definitely a positive thing to like have in our community, and it definitely has evolved over the years. I mean, I remember when Drag Race was like in like 2009, where it was like, what best mall fashion can you wear? And now everybody's just creating these couture outfits. And it's honestly like, for me, it's less a TV show now, and it's more of like a historic staple. Because anything from like 2009 to now was Drag Race. So it's like you have these references, these people that have like come from the show, and they've done their own things, It's just like, I think it's a very important thing in our community.
Yeah, I think RuPaul talks about kind of being such a struggling artist in the 80s and 90s, and now I feel like the people that have been on that show, they make a living traveling and doing shows, and
they start out with really just kind of like trying to find stardom, and they go into their own projects. I mean, Trixie Mattel just created a motel based around herself and her aesthetic, and I think without something like RuPaul's Drag Race, I don't think that would be something going on,
Yeah, it's really created a serious art form as opposed to kind of an underground sort of thing, which has its good and bad parts,
no,
right?
Absolutely.
Like,
the underground community is also important, if not less understood, I guess I would say.
Yeah, definitely. I love that. Who are some of your favorite queens? I mean, whether they're from RuPaul's or something else, who are some of your favorite queens?
My favorite queens, I do have a couple from RuPaul's Drag Race. I love Willem Belli. She's one of those queens that I've met before in Chicago, where she is really all about equality. She's about, if this girl's getting paid this much, this other girl should be paid the same. There shouldn't be a difference there. Katya, hilarious, crazy, hilarious. Outside of Drag Race, though, I would say like Heklina, rest in peace, Heklina, Peaches Christ, these like West Coast kind of comedy queens, like just like take drag, the glamour side of drag, and make it like campy. And there's nothing more fun for me than campy drag.
Yeah.
Because it's like extra to like crazy degree.
Yeah, I love that. I kind of want to reference something you just mentioned, but like it sounds like there's also quite a few different kinds of drag. Like when people think about drag, maybe they may only think about performing and lip syncing like pop songs and things like that. Can you speak to some of the different types of drag?
So from what I've noticed, I think the umbrella of drag is endless, really. It really just comes down to that person and their expression. I would say, from what I understand from general area, there's definitely a huge pageant scene where, if anybody is unfamiliar with drag, it's basically like the Miss Universe or Miss America of drag.
Okay.
You know, expensive gowns, beautiful makeup, huge wigs. There's campy queens, who is more of like, you know, comedy and stand up. You know, Bianca Del Rio from Drag Race, huge comedy queen, huge campy queen. And there's even like more of the underground stuff. If anybody's heard of Dracula, you know, that's more of the punk type scene.
Yeah.
I mean, I started when I was in Chicago. I started as a punk drag queen. I was not glamorous. I was very. I mean, not that punk queens aren't glamorous, but you know, it was definitely a different aesthetic. I was going to ask you, what are your favorite queens?
Oh gosh. So I'm actually not a huge queen person, but my favorite queen, or I'm not a huge RuPaul's Drag Race person, but I actually love Bob the Drag Queen.
Oh yeah.
They are my favorite human being, honestly. I love their social media presence and obviously they would perform. But I fell in love with them on the TV show We're Here, which is on HBO.
Amazing show.
Yeah, it's kind of like Queer Eye for the straight guy meets drag queens, and they kind of like uplift the lives of people through drag performances. So it's a really cool show. So I kind of fell in love with them through that show. So yeah, thanks for asking. So in recent years, and you kind of touched on this too, that drag's kind of for everybody. There's not just one type of drag. But in recent years, there's been some controversy that I've heard about whether trans women and cisgender women and even straight men belong in drag. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that like people who would say that they're not involved in that, it's kind of like an older thinking method. Not that there's anything wrong with it. I think education is huge and definitely important, and it's, you know, part of being progressive and, you know, accepting people for who they are. I think drag is really like endless. I mean, you have drag kings, you have bio queens, you have just really anybody. There's a huge show in Chicago that is just gender fluidity and, you know, gender queer and like just all these people that don't necessarily abide by male or female, you know, gender norms. And I think it's important to realize that like drag is, again, an art form, and art is subjective.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be a certain way to, you know, present art.
Yeah. I love that. I agree. I mean, it should be, and it is the spectrum of humanity too, right?
Absolutely.
That we express in different ways. So yeah, I love that. And you kind of touched on this too in the answer too, which is, you know, it also seems that drag, or the art form of drag, is also kind of about coming into an identity with yourself too.
Absolutely.
So can you talk a little bit too, like how has drag or performing in this way helped you to kind of come to a place of understanding yourself and your own identities? Has that been a part of that?
I would definitely say drag has been a huge part of like my gender expression. You know, I personally am gender fluid. I use they them pronouns. Back when I was like 18 and just kind of like dabbling here and there, even when I was like starting with you, I was like still scared about, you know, going out in a wig, going out in heels, going out in makeup. It was still something very taboo to me, and just kind of like, I don't know if I can do that. Nowadays, I will walk into like a Jules Osco in 6-inch platforms, just picking out guavas. Like, it's just, you know, it helped me come to terms with accepting myself for who I am, not being afraid of others. Because if you live for others, you're never truly living for yourself.
Yeah.
And it's very important to do so.
Yeah, I love that. That's really important. Right. I mean, when I think of drag queens, I think of some of the most like confident and powerful people that I know. And so I love that, you know, they all kind of also start off somewhere, and you kind of, that's a process and a journey just like the rest of us.
No,
too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that. So on the topic of kind of controversies within the community and things like that, in the last couple of years, we've seen an increase in conservative political movements to target LGBTQ people, and specifically looking to ban drag performances and ban drag queen story hours. As LGBTQ people, we're fairly used to this in our existence, and our existence being political. But what's your take on these bans and kind of the larger movement to like target LGBTQ people?
Personally, I have witnessed these before. I used to live in Florida, and Florida in the news is a huge thing on canceling these artists and not letting them perform. And I think it, again, just comes back down to education. You know, there's a difference between somebody who preys on someone
Mm-hmm.
and a drag performer. Like, we're not trying to invade your privacy and make you uncomfortable. If you don't like what you're seeing, nobody is forcing you to be there. And it's not to be rude or combative, but, like, I wouldn't walk into someone else's business and judge them for what they do, because it's their business. Us as drag queens, we're freelancers. We are our own performer. We are our own union. We are our own business, if that makes any sense. So I think when it comes to banning drag, I think it's one tearing down business for us, but it's also kind of going against our rights to be ourselves.
Yeah.
And if this country boasts itself on freedom of expression, freedom of speech, freedom of media, whatever the case may be, you can't have that and then exclude A, B, C, D, and E. It's just you can't. It has to be either forefront or not at all. So I think it definitely comes down to education. I think the news is a terrible place to get your news, as crazy as that may seem. You have one story and 7 endings.
Yeah.
Same story.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I think
long way around the pond, right?
Education is really important, right? I mean, I think a lot of people think of drag and maybe they have a perception of what that is, which is why I think this is important to be having these discussions and talking about this locally in your own communities too. But when people think about drag, I think sometimes they have this sort of sexualized idea, and just like any art form, there's art that is appropriate for all ages, and then there's
Absolutely.
art that's for adults, right?
And I mean, I will give you credit in that stance. Your picnic, for example, it is a drag event, but you ask your performers to make sure what they are wearing and what they're performing is okay for all audiences, because it is important to still educate the community, as well as we entertain, but we want to make sure that what we are putting out there isn't harmful.
Yeah.
And I think that's a huge thing.
Yeah.
I will say this community, as Kankakee as a whole, has come leaps and bounds from when I was younger.
Yeah.
So I think it's just up and up from here. Just keep going up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think about my son, he's 4 and he's already met, I don't know, a handful of drag queens in his short life. And I think that's so special. I think it's so important for people to see people of different walks of life, the people that express themselves differently. I love that art can be that, and drag as a performance art is very much in that way. Kids should experience different kinds of people, and drag is a way to teach those things in a way that can be really palatable and fun, just like a Disneyland character, or things like that. So, so I love that. I mean, when there's a lot of controversy about these drag queen story hours, that kids shouldn't be exposed to this sort of thing. But like you said, there's a way to make art that is appropriate for
absolutely
all
and
ages.
I mean, one of the biggest queens who I respect when it comes to drag queen story hour is Kasha Davis. This is Kasha Davis. Her aesthetic in a bar is completely different from her aesthetic in, say, a public library. There is nothing that she is doing during those hours that are inappropriate or susceptible to kids.
Yeah.
And I think it's very important to realize that there is a difference between adult nightlife and what we do in public spaces.
Yeah. And in all those drag queen story hours, they're reading a book about diversity and about being who you are. And I think it's really powerful coming from queens
absolutely.
or LGBTQ people. So,
well, we want better for the kids that are the future.
100%.
Whitney Houston says it best. Children are our future. Let them need to be.
Yes, absolutely. So you mentioned kind of getting involved in the local scene with some of our Pride events and things like that. I love that we were able to bring that to the Pride picnic to kind of get things going. When
absolutely.
I was coming up, kind of just turned 21, there was kind of a resurgence of, there was a gay bar locally. I talked about this last time I was on the podcast, a gay bar locally.
What was that called again?
It was called Heroes. And it was right up the street here on Schuyler. I believe the place is called Jags now, but it was Heroes. And so they were doing a lot of drag shows there. And then there were some people locally that were bringing queens from the city down to do performances. It was kind of a resurgence, and it has died off quite a lot since I was 21. That was been darn near 20 years ago now.
So now you're 25. Gotcha.
That's right. Course, yeah. That's right. But I'm wondering, what's been your take on the scene kind of expanding again and kind of bringing drag around? I've seen more events, some local queens and some Chicago or outside queens. We definitely have more queens popping up for pride events and things like
Oh,
that. So what's your take
absolutely.
about the local scene?
The local scene is in Kankakee.
Yeah.
I definitely think the biggest help for us queens is, again, like I said, we're freelancers. We don't necessarily own businesses ourselves.
Mhm.
I think people like you, people like Electric Lady Lounge, people like at Cafe Stafari, like those progressive businesses that have the morality of acceptance as a whole,
Mhm.
definitely give room for us queens to be able to partake in. I can't tell you how many people I know I'm going off on topic, but how many people get excited over a drag show out here? It's
Mhm.
insane. But like for us, it's just gratifying because it's like there's finally a place for us out here
Yeah.
that we don't have to hightail it an hour up to the city and get stuck in traffic. So
Sure. Yeah.
I think you guys honestly are the ticket to, or even just this right here in this podcast, being
Mhm.
able to get this opportunity. You could not tell 5-year-old little Champagne that she was going to be on a podcast when she got older. I could not see it. Could not see it.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, I think you're right. Exposure and letting people know that we're here, that there's
Mhm.
queens locally that are performing. I would encourage people that are listening, like ask your local bars, your local restaurants to maybe host
Oh,
drag
absolutely.
shows. I know that there are some local places that bring traveling groups into shows, but
Oh,
there are
absolutely.
queens here locally, and that's I just.
But even traveling
love
shows,
that.
it's still exposure. It's still important.
So, what are some of your favorite places to perform first? I guess I've got a couple of these favorites. What's your favorite
So
place to perform?
honestly, like, and I'm so excited for next month. Nax was really fun. Like,
Yeah.
you only performed there once. That was really cool. Another one out here is where you have the picnic.
Mm.
Sometimes the weather may not be the best, but we're all there, and it's just that community, that warmth, that feeling of like, just like complete transparency. Like everybody's cool, everybody's having fun.
Yeah.
Um, the only other place I can really think of that I miss like wholeheartedly, and unfortunately doesn't exist anymore, is Mary's Attic in the
Mm.
city. It was above Hamburger Mary's, and they had like the coolest shows during the winter.
Yeah.
And or even Charlie's. Charlie's is great. Like if you like a country gay bar,
Mm.
where they're like a patch of tartan, like I'm a cowboy. I'm like, okay, sure,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, I love
I'll have a
that.
vodka soda, thanks.
North Allside has a lot of great,
Oh,
bars and places
absolutely.
to perform. But I know there's some local queens that have been going up to the city and doing shows in the city. So yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, I miss the Mary's Attic as well. It's cool. Hamburger Mary's is a cool space.
I love Hamburger Mary's for a
those
drag
things.
show as well. They
Yeah.
do a good one.
Yeah, definitely. And how about your favorite number to perform?
So my favorite number to perform is probably Strut by Sheena Easton.
Okay.
Just because it's so like for me it's like very feminine, just very like extra. Like I can like stop and then I go.
Mm.
And it's just like it holds a really good memory in my heart. It's a song that I performed where my father actually came to the show,
Oh.
surprised me. He made this queen cry because I was not expecting him to show up, and he just cheered me on, and it's just like that level of acceptance from your family,
Mhm.
not just your chosen, but your biological. It's just like it means the world. It
Yeah.
makes you as an artist feel like a great amount of respect. So I would say like Strut by Sheena Easton or probably like Ain't Nobody by Shaka Khan.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Good 80s jams, huh?
Mm-hmm.
I love that. And what about what's the on the same subject there? What's the most overdone drag queen number? What are you sick of queens doing?
I wish you guys can see the face I'm making right now. Oh my god. I would probably have to say at this point, if I see somebody coming out in denim and a blonde wig and they do Toxic by Britney Spears, I'm probably going to sidetrack.
Yes.
So
I love that. Awesome. So you'd mentioned your family. I'm curious how your family feels about you said they've been to see shows. I know that I've met them at the picnic and things. So how do they feel about drag now? Was that a learning process for them? Kind of coming to terms with you doing drag?
Definitely a learning process. No family is perfect. I think I've always been extra. There's no doubt about that. And like 4 years old, wearing sparkly tap shoes and doing Irish step dancing lessons. Didn't know any of the moves, but sparkly shoes, sparkles. That and just like life in general. I would say for my family, and I'm proud of him for just the way he is now. My dad, You know, he didn't understand it at first. It wasn't necessarily his cup of tea, but as his son, he was like, I'm gonna go. You know, I'm gonna see what happens. You know, some performances were better than others. You know,
Yeah.
some I'm sure certain things I did on stage, he was like, oh, I don't want to see that. But my mom has always been like a huge cheerleader as well. You know, she's again, like I said, the inspiration as to why I started doing drag. The first picnic I had with you, she actually brought my aunt out, and my aunt's like her same age, and they were both like powerhouses of the 80s of like style, and they just loved it. And it's just like I'm get all emotional now, but it's cool. Like it's definitely a long process, but there's a train outside. Choo choo. Here comes the drag bus. Wait, no, it's a train station. Never mind. Anyways, dummy. But what was the question?
I love that. No, you answered spot on. I mean, your family kind of being the inspiration and being able to be there. It
No,
sounds like that was
absolutely.
really special.
My brothers hate it though.
They hate it?
Yeah, not in like an actual genuine hate, but they're like, "Why do you make money doing nothing?" I'm like, "Guess it's my thing, not yours."
Tell them to put on a pair of heels and walk up the stairs.
Like, do you want to walk up these 2 flights? It's great.
I love that. Oh, that's awesome. So for people that haven't been to a drag show ever before, and they're considering going to their first show, I know that there's some etiquette, and I know I don't want to steal your answer, but like number one etiquette of drag is to bring dollar bills and tip, right?
Preferred,
tip your queens.
Change is acceptable sometimes too.
Don't throw that though.
No.
Any other etiquette things did you kind of find to be important about drag shows?
It's my show. Don't get on the stage. I'm happy it's your bachelorette party, and that's great. But like, if you get on stage with me, you might fall off by accident. Or you might throw some pearls up there. But I think respecting the performer is insanely important. You know, I have seen plenty of people try to get up there and dance with the queen and stuff like that. And while, yes, it is a show for people to enjoy and we're there to make everybody happy, you wouldn't jump on stage during a Broadway show.
Yeah.
You wouldn't go up on Cats and start like over singing the person, you know, like you just wouldn't do it. And so I think it's important to, regardless if it's a bar or not, to respect the performer. Also, don't wave money in my face and then take it away, because I will tackle you. Like Brian Urlacher just.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah, there's something about drag that I feel like maybe makes people feel like it's like
they want to be a part of it. Yeah,
and you want to be a part of it.
Don't get me wrong, there are shows that are definitely like that, but good rule of thumb is to kind of just, you know, wait till after the show, because usually there's still music playing, there's still fun, and we're still dancing. So come dance with us then. But
yeah,
while we're performing, we are trying to give you our art. So if you're in the way, I can't give you my art.
Yeah, I love that. So Champagne, I know that you are part of a pretty exciting new initiative with Electric Lady Lounge, which is a tattoo shop in Bradley. I'm wondering if you can tell us about that initiative.
So the initiative is definitely about raising and like praising like queer arts and like just queer voices, as it's definitely needed out here. I mean, not that it's not already out here, but you know, we want to continue that and bring it out. For me, it's been a sponsorship. They've helped me out a lot, and they definitely want to help more queens in the future. I've already had a gig booked for next month with Nax, as you know, because you're going to be there as well.
Yes, of course.
And then they also got me an out-of-state gig in Indiana, which I'm going to be hosting a roller derby. That's which I think is really awesome, because I've never done that before. They prefer me to wear skates, and I'm like, no. I'm like, I'll fall on my face. It'll hurt.
Yeah.
But they're just an amazing company, and you know, you've been friends with Brie for a while. Yeah. I would say at this point, I've been friends with Brie for a while. And their whole team is amazing. I will just say, like, especially for this community, you know, I feel like you guys work together so well as well. Especially last year, incredible. Yeah. Absolutely incredible. Yeah. So for their initiative, it's definitely about just kind of like giving artists a space to be themselves, as well as like helping them. And it's also like a business too. I've learned a lot business wise to help me with my bookings and my gigs on how to handle that conversation better, you know, so that it extends to more. Yeah. So I definitely like check out those businesses. Local businesses definitely help the community.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
They may be a tattoo shop at first, but like get to know them and you'll find more, opportunities and
For sure. And
They
there's so
definitely
much more than a tattoo shop. I
No,
mean, they
absolutely,
really are
yeah.
such a safe space to kind of go chill and just be yourself.
I had just stepped in there earlier today before coming to here, and the art they do, the way it touches people.
Yeah.
Ari is a good example.
Mm-hmm.
What she does for the community in a genuine sense of just, making people feel affirmed with their body and just, I think, again, long way around the pond.
Yes.
But I hope that explained it.
Definitely, yeah. I asked Brie to kind of make sure we don't miss anything, and yeah, just what you said. It's really
you missed A, B, C, and
you
section
missed
8.
nothing. You missed nothing. But she really just wanted to make sure that you knew that people know that it's really a way to uplift the art form.
No, absolutely.
And like you said, support
you
in
do
the
the same thing.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. It's exciting to bring new things to the community, but also I love the arts and this sort of performance. So. Secretly, there's a little drag queen inside of me that maybe one day will come out one day.
And what's her name?
I don't know. I've never named her. We've mentioned a couple of times some of the events that are coming up, but I want to kind of make sure that we're highlighting each event, but that you guys will be performing at, and just our Pride events in general, with it being Pride Month. We've got a lot going on through the network. And so I'll just kind of go through the list of them. Sunday, June 9th, will be our annual Pride picnic.
How many years has it been now?
I think this is our 4th, with some gaps in there for COVID.
Stay 5th. It's okay.
Yeah.
Disney can do it 100 times weekend once.
Right. So yeah, it'll be a good time. This is out at the state park in our main shelter. We do have our amazing queens. There's a couple new queens, people that have never performed drag before getting to perform. Some that are performing locally for the first time. So I always like that as a cool stage for people to try drag out too.
Nostalgic.
Yeah.
Reminds me of my first time.
Yeah. So that'll be Sunday, June 9th from 11 to 3. And we have hot dogs and potluck style food. So that's always a good time.
I love hot dogs.
Oh.
For anybody who didn't get that reference, it's Jennifer Coolidge.
Yes, Legally Blonde, the best. And then the event that we've been talking about several times over, the June 15th at Knack Brewing in Kankakee will be our 2nd annual Pride Party, which is hosted by Electric Lady Lounge. And that last year we did a trivia thing. It was super fun. You and Chanel hosted and did trivia in addition to performing. This year it's going to be more about the performance and the dancing. So we're doing a disco party, right?
Absolutely.
So
yes.
You got any tricks up your sleeve or anything you're excited about?
She's definitely been working on this outfit. It's definitely going to be a knockout from last time.
Awesome.
We're kind of moving away from dresses and going in elsewhere direction. So it should be good. I know me and Chanel have been working on some banter back and forth that are going to be kind of funny. Like, oh, girl, here we are again.
Yes.
The land of corn.
I love that. That's one of my favorite things about Queens, especially like those of you that know each other work well together and kind of.
Well, I mean, the first time we ever worked together, I mean, we just bounce back and off each other, and it's great. It just makes it relatable.
Yeah,
you don't want someone who's like,
a little bit of
welcome
shade.
to the drag show. I'll be performing now. Like,
absolutely, yeah, makes it fun.
No,
I love that. So again, that's Saturday, June 15th, and that begins at 5 at Knack. And there will be raffles and dancing and karaoke and all the things there.
Yes,
it's a blast.
My friend Jessica is doing the karaoke.
Yes, so fun. I love that. Yeah, it'll be a good time. And then the last event, which our queens are not necessarily involved there, but our last event is actually a teen event. That'll be Saturday, June 22nd. And Harbor House is partnering with us for that event.
Amazing.
It'll be a silent disco. So that'll be really fun. I'm excited to just be able to have a special event just for the teens in the group too. Because that's always
I mean, and that's, me and Brie were talking about that earlier. I was like, I think it's cool that like, again, there's that separation, but there's still that involvement.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, the teens aren't not going to see the social media. Sorry, she had Chipotle today. There's that separation, but there's that inclusivity.
Yeah.
No, not inclusivity. What's the word? Involvement?
Yeah.
Acceptance? Yeah. I don't know. My brain's fried.
Definitely.
But they're going to see it on Instagram. They're going to see, the disco of the event that we're having on the 15th.
Yeah.
Now they have something for themselves and they can like talk to their friends about it. And again, it just builds the community and brings us forward. And I think that's amazing what you guys are doing for that.
Yeah, thank you. It's a lot of fun. It's like I function from the quote, "Be who you needed when you were younger." Like there's not this thing here growing up in Kankakee County, Iroquois County, when I was coming up. So it is pretty cool to be able to provide it for sure. So if you could leave our listeners today with any sort of drag wisdom or just a little tidbit of information, what would you drop on them?
Be unapologetically you. Don't conform to the standards that you've been taught. Literally, like, life is to be lived. It's a celebration. So, like, don't, like, if you get dressed in the morning, don't think, oh, is someone else going to like this? Wear it for you. I'm in a dino crop top with shorts and go-go boots. Mm-hmm. So, like, do you. Because, like I said, life is a celebration. So
yeah, I think RuPaul says you come into the world naked and the rest is drag. Like,
clothes are not genderized; they're clothes.
Yeah, and I love that. Be unapologetically you. I appreciate that. Well, again, happy Pride, Champagne.
Yes.
Thanks for being here. Thanks, Kankakee Podcast, for having us. And I hope everyone has a wonderful Pride Month and celebrates themselves. And
I hope to see you guys soon.
Yeah, peace out.
That concludes this episode of Kankakee Podcast. I'm Jake Lamore. Thank you so much for listening. Please hit that subscribe button if you haven't already and leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn at Kankakee Podcast. Shout out to Stephanie Vanderweide for supporting the show each month through Patreon. If you want your name announced on a future episode, you can sign up at patreon.com/Kankakee Podcast. Special thanks to our sponsors, Chicago Dough Company, Noble Dairy Queen Stores, Frank's Appliance Center and Sleep Source, Pigosh Engineering, King Music, Little Me Studio, Taco John's, D. Westfall Jewelers, and Edward Jones Financial Advisor Adam Elroy. Kankakee Podcast is produced by the fine team at Pathfinder, a full-service marketing agency in downtown Kankakee. Learn more at yourpathfinder.io. Our theme song is by Lupe Carroll.